Welcome, everybody. Today we're talking about reading and succeeding, proven methods to boost motivation and comprehension for elementary and middle schoolers this summer. My name is Ann Dolan, and prior to founding Educational Connections, I was a special education teacher and a general education teacher in both fourth and sixth grades. This topic is near and dear to my heart because so many of my students in the classroom struggle to read. And in fourth grade, if you're having a hard time reading, things are really difficult for you going forward. So we're going to tackle all the issues that come with reading, from the motivation issue to, just pronouncing and reading the words, to comprehension, and to understanding the grade level and performance of your child. So fortunately, I have an expert here with me, Jan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And Jan is also a former classroom teacher. And after leaving the classroom, Jan and I have had the privilege of working together for 11 years. She's been a tutor here with me at Educational Connections all that time, and she is my go-to reading tutor. In fact, I have to share that Jan tutored my youngest son, Ethan, and he was one of those reluctant readers. Even though I tried my best when it was coming from me, he was still a little bit reluctant, but the minute Jan showed up, it was like magic, and she could get him to do things that he would not do for me. And that's super common, that issue we face as parents. And Jan has a master's degree in education and a bachelor's degree in both education and accounting. So Jan, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we hear on the phone from parents when they call our office and we talk to them about the needs of their child. They'll say things kind of like what we heard in the chat. My child doesn't want to read. They won't read out loud. They won't read independently. Sometimes parents will say, like, I think he's below grade level, but I'm not sure. Some others will say, my child doesn't even want to pick up a book. And sometimes they'll say he knows how to read, but doesn't get the deeper meaning of understanding. And then other times parents think that things are going okay, yet they see their child's test scores, especially on standardized testing, and it's not what they expect. So Jan, that's a lot about reading, but oftentimes reading is the baseline, but it can impact other subjects. Tell us, why reading is so important and what the fallout is when kids don't read well.
Yes, so I do see reading and writing impact all the subjects with the students that I'm working with, as well as math. So when they're in math, especially with when they're younger, they learn the skill. But as they start to get older, they have to take that skill and apply it to real world word problems. And as they get older, now the assessments are more of the word problem, real world situations. So if a child is struggling with reading and understanding vocabulary, this can be extremely difficult in math and the other subjects.
It seems like as the years have gone on, math has gone away from like more of a computational subject to like a language-based subject in a way.
Absolutely. I working with kids, especially the kids in Virginia and the other states, taking the end of the year test, taking a look at all the practice problems that they're doing. I don't think I saw one problem that was just a math problem. It was all situations, real world situations that they had to read the problem and then apply the math concept to it. So, and that was, a little bit difficult for kids that were, struggling with reading.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So sometimes parents will say, I'm not sure about my child's reading level. How do you assess a student's level and then figure out from that information, like what to do?
So whenever I start working with a student, what we do is we will assess their reading level. So we'll give them a short passage to read, and this will help us determine their grade level, determine their comprehension. We can also evaluate their inferring, and then when we get those results, then we can take those results and be able to make sure that we are giving them books to read or passages to read that are at their level so that it can help them grow faster and start to comprehend quicker. And so that helps us with assessing them, and we do that at the beginning, and then we tend to do it again a few weeks later, a couple months later, just to see how they're growing and maybe assess a higher reading level.
And so when you get that information, then you can then determine what the Lexile level is, and that helps you find the appropriate books, correct?
Yeah, so with those results, the Lexile is really good information because we can use that to go online to get a book, to make sure that the student is reading a book at their level. And then also I have a lot of parents that want to go to the library and want to, allow their child to just pick books that they like to read, like the one parent had mentioned, and having the Lexile available, showing it to the librarian and saying, where are these books? And so that's extremely helpful, just in case, you want to get, a variety of books.
Makes sense, Jan. So picking a book, like a physical copy book, is one thing, but the reality is so many of our kids, especially standardized tests, it is done online. So kids also need to almost like learn the separate skill of reading online. Tell us about it.
Yes, so we, definitely we encourage reading with books, but as you mentioned, almost everything is going online now. So the kids' textbooks are online, their assignments are online, the assessments are online. So getting them to be able to read online is so important right now. And it's actually easier whenever you have a reluctant reader. So whenever I am working with students and trying to help them start to read and want to read, whenever I get a book, this is a way for us to interact with the book together. So for example, this book here, if I am working with a student at the beginning, I'll say, okay, I want you to go and I want you to scan the page. If there's any words that you don't know, highlight the word for me, and then we can discuss that word first, and then we start reading. We can also, I can annotate on I can annotate online, which paragraph you're going to read, which paragraph I'm going to read. And so then we can also show how to, like if they are having a hard time keeping their place, using the cursor in order to keep their place and help them stay focused whenever they are reading. And that also helps, whenever they're doing assignments and especially assessments, especially since this is a time for assessments right now at the end of the school year. And so that helps them stay focused. But being able to model that online has been extremely helpful for quite a few students.
I know that you and all of our other tutors do work with kids online. And sometimes parents are like, "Ooh, I don't know about that. Like, shouldn't you be sitting next to him and like physically be holding a book?" What do you think about that? And can you tell us a little bit about the role that lesson space plays and working with kids remotely?
Yes. So through our platform that we use with Lesson Space, we can upload pictures of the book online. And like I was mentioning, from the from interacting with the book, so the kids can go on, they can highlight, they can, it's easy for them to keep their place. And doing it through Lesson Space is so helpful because everything stays right there on Lesson Space. So parents can go back into Lesson Space, look at what we were working on, look at the strategies that we were using. The students can talk to their parents, and they can use it whenever they're not having a session. So going through Lesson Space is extremely helpful. But to go back to having a book in their hand versus online, it is so much easier to teach reading and go through those strategies when we're online. I did it, before we did it online, and I would have my copy of the book and they would have their copy of the book, and we would always have to keep, like, where are you in where are you in the passage? And here we're live in the book together, interacting in the book together online. So I have found it much easier. And the kids tend to like it a little bit more because they can color code, they can write on the screen, and especially through lesson space, it's still there for them.
It sounds really interactive. Jan, we mentioned at the beginning, and one of the parents said, okay, yeah, my child can read the words, but doesn't really have deeper understanding. And teaching kids inferencing is like not an easy thing to do. How do you teach that when inferencing and comprehension in general is so important these days?
So this is to infer is one of those areas that you need to model for your child. This is what we do. It's a model all the time with my students when I'm working with them. So I let them know what I'm thinking and how I do it, and then that helps them apply it to what they're reading. So what I'll do is I will put out a picture first and say, okay, tell me everything you know about this picture. And so and I'll say, well, how do you know what the temperature is, or how do you know what the season is, or what are what are you using to give you that information? And then we can take that and apply it to the passages they're reading, the books they're reading. But what we do is tell them, it's like you're a detective, you're looking for clues. What is telling you, what the weather is? How do you know it's winter versus spring? And so then we also want to encourage them to use their prior knowledge. And then as we're modeling it, and I do that, over and over and over again, the kids will be like, oh, I can do it this time. I'll do it this time. So that's how we teach inferring.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan. So inferring is so helpful, but so is having kids find something that they really, really love and want to read. And I just remember personally you helping Ethan find something he really, really wanted to read was just like the biggest key ever. And it's not always easy to do, but tell us a little bit about how you do that with kids, and specifically a nonfiction passage like Snake Island.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite passages. Um, so this one I've brought so many kids over to reading from Snake Island. So a lot of the kids that are reluctant, we will start talking about their interests, and then I'll just throw out some of the topics, and then I'll say something about maybe Snake Island, especially for my middle schoolers, and they're like, Snake Island. And so explaining to them about Snake Island and where it is, and how nobody can go to that island because these snakes are so dangerous. And so immediately they're wanting to look at this. And another way that helps them with these high interest passages and getting them to read a little bit more is I have a video. There's a video that backs up the passage. And so the kids love seeing something just come to life on a video. So if I have reluctant readers, especially at the middle school age, I will try to pick one of these high interest passages and then use that video. So for example, Snake Island, there is a 60-minute special all about Snake Island, and it shows all the snakes. And the kids are like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And so they're like, oh, I want to read something else like Snake Island. And so then it gets me to, be able to go into some of the other passages and some of the other high interest, information that they want to learn about. And then taking it to the video and being able to have it come alive for them is it's fun. And then we want to discuss it. And so we have a lot of fun with these types of passages.
That sounds awesome. I like the video idea too. Sometimes parents will say, oh, you don't know my kid. He only wants to play video games. But even that, you've been able to find fun ways
Yes.
of introducing reading.
Okay, and that I hear all the time. All, all the time. So, I have a student. Um, so
Uh-oh, Jan, I think your connection isn't that
when I
great.
started working with him, he mentioned, oh, okay. So whenever I was working with when I'm working with him, he was clear he did not want to have a session. He did not want to read. And then so I started talking to him about his interests, things that he liked to do. And of course, Roblox was his favorite thing to do. That's what he wanted to do right after the session. He told me, okay, as soon as I get off this session, I get to do Roblox. And so I got some passages about Roblox. And the next time I had him, I pulled this up and his eyes just lit up and he's like, oh my goodness, you know bacon hair? And so he was interested in learning about bacon hair, learning about his birthday. And then we could start a discussion and about bacon hair, and we were able to branch off into some of the other things that he might be interested in. So yeah, so that's fun, and I learned quite a bit too. So
I love that. That sounds like a lot of fun for kids that love video games. All right, what about some other books? Let's talk about books for elementary schoolers. What are your favorite ones?
I cannot tell you how much. I mean, I love my weird school days. That is my number one go-to for reluctant readers, especially the ones that are in the earlier grades, second and third grade. There are so many kids that were reluctant to read, and then they read one of the My Weird School Days books and started reading. I had a fourth grader that had not read a book, and he was introduced to these books, and his mom, within probably 2 weeks, said, oh my goodness, he won't stop reading. He loves this book. I hear him laughing. He tells us about this book because in these books there's so many characters that kids connect with. There's kids that don't like school. There's kids that love school. Um, there's the uh, the goofy kids. There's the funny kids. And so those are my absolute favorite books. I last summer had a student that she did not uh, she didn't want to read, and she has started reading. She's even reading nonfiction now. We just finished the whole book about Helen Keller, and she wanted to watch the miracle, I think it was the Miracle Worker. She wanted to watch that
Yeah.
movie, and she's young, and I said, well, check with your parents, and they watched it with her, and it was just wonderful to see her where she's just enjoying hearing the information and sharing facts. Her parents are saying she's sharing facts of, that she's learning with the nonfiction passages. But I have to give it to My Weird School Days because that's where she started. So
And I know
yeah,
you
that's
also
my
like trapped in a video game.
love. Okay, trapped. Okay, so this is for they're a little bit older, and they love video games. And whenever I introduce trap or I talk about trapped in a video game, I get that look again, like, I would want to. Yes, I would want to hear about that. And so when we pull those books up, I get a lot of students that just want to play video games. They actually want to read these books. And I had another student that read that book and did a project on the book. The kids at school were like, oh my goodness, that's a great book. I want to read that book. So those are fantastic also, especially for the kids that are just absolutely love video games.
Jan, there was a parent when we first started who said, my child only wants to read graphic novels. And I'm wondering, I kind of have thoughts on that, but I'm wondering about your thoughts too about a student that's, just good with graphic novels.
Yeah, so actually, some of the graphic novels have higher level reading in the graphic novels. Some of the kids, I have not discouraged the graphic novels just because I want to keep them reading. I want them to be interested in reading. But I've also encouraged them to read, other books along with the graphic novels. The way that I have done that with the students, I've read the graphic novels with them, and then I also say, you know what, I have another book that's similar to that. We can try reading this one also. But I do still, encourage them to continue reading the graphic novels if they're interested in those books, just because I don't want to discourage them from reading, but I also want them to read a variety of other texts also.
Yeah, I like that idea because we kind of want kids to equate reading with relaxation, especially if they're reading at night, reading with pleasure. And if they feel that from the graphic novels, I think that's awesome because eventually at school, they're going to get to, more concentrated text. So I'm with you there. All right, so let's shift to the middle schoolers and tell me about some of the books you like for older students.
So, love all of these books. Percy Jackson, extremely popular, really good book. The City of Ember is I absolutely love that book. It is there. They actually came up with it's on Apple TV, Silo, and I really think they got the Silo show on Apple TV from this book because it is so similar. I even went on and was researching it, and a lot of people said this is very similar to City of Ember. So this is a book about an underground silo, and it's underground for hundreds of years. And there's kids in the silo that figure out that there's a way out, and they, without giving the story away, they come up with ways to help everybody. And then they have a second book on the continuation of the story. But a lot of kids absolutely love that idea of, oh my goodness, okay, so living underground, not knowing there's a world above them. And so they absolutely love that mystery. And then there's a movie that comes along with it, and kids always love to watch the movie after. But Liar Liar is another one that's hilarious. I found that with my reluctant readers, if I can get them reading books that are funny, sometimes that helps them at the very beginning because they love to laugh, and then we're laughing. And so the Weird School Days for the younger kids is just hilarious. But some of these books, but yeah, so I love all of these, but City of Ember tends to be a good one with reluctant readers. Liar Liar, of course, Percy Jackson.
Awesome. Thanks, Jan. Okay, there's a whole nother way of helping kids to read that are reluctant readers, and it's actually not a book, but it's something called Reader's Theater. And I personally am a huge fan of Reader's Theater. I've used it for lots of years when I was a classroom teacher and then also a tutor. And tell us about Reader's Theater, what it is, and why kids like it.
Okay, so these are fantastic. So when I am, trying to find passages and that's not working, and then I'm trying to find books and that's not working, I have Reader's Theater. So, Reader's Theater is fantastic to start because you can see they're short passages, and if you ask a kid, which one are you going to read? And they will say, oh, I'm going to be Fatima or Caleb, because it's just a little passage there. And that's okay with Reader's Theater. I'm like, okay, sure, you can be Fatima, you can be Caleb. I'll be the narrator. And so we can go through this and we can be so expressive and we can be funny, and they're very short sections that they are to read. I even had a student that could, they only wanted to read a little bit, so they wanted to change their character. I'm like, that is fine. Yes. Why don't you try being Fatima now, and then you can be Caleb? And so it just gets them where they're having a lot of fun with it, and they don't feel all the pressure of, okay, I have to read this amount. I can have fun with it. I can ask questions. I also, at the very beginning, will do all the modeling. If they don't feel comfortable right away, that's all right. I'll give them time, and then we can, they can start reading whenever they feel comfortable. And then they tend to really, they tend to take off with readers theater very quickly because they have fun with it. So yes, I absolutely love readers theater.
Me too, Jan. So you just mentioned something about modeling. It's kind of like, here, let me show you how this is, or it's like almost a think aloud. Can you tell us a little bit about how modeling works with helping reluctant readers to read, and just in general, some tips for concentration and focus?
Yes. So with the I cannot tell you how important modeling is. I uh, Whenever I am reading and I'm working with kids that are reluctant to reading, or they're having difficulty with comprehension, for me to just talk and think out loud and explain to them the pictures that are going on in my mind, how I'm forming this movie, and how I can comprehend the passage from these pictures, this helps them so much. And then I will say, okay, well, what's going on in your mind? What movie are you developing in your mind after you're reading it? And then we compare. And so, and I let them know it's okay if yours is not the same as mine. That's okay. And so just letting them know how other people do it and how other people are thinking about it helps them quite a bit with reading and with comprehension, and also, of course, inferring. So that is something that we do from the very beginning all the way through. Then also with concentration and focus. So what I do whenever I'm working with students, they do have a little bit of some difficulty with focus. So what we'll do is we'll practice it during our session. So I'll say, okay, well, let's try reading for 5 minutes. Let's start with 5 minutes, and then let's stop. Let's talk about what you read, and tell me, how do you feel like you comprehended what you read? Do you feel like that was a good amount of time to start with? And they're like, oh yeah, that was, yeah, 5 minutes. And then we'll increase it and increase it until we get to a time that we feel like is the kind of like that sweet spot for how much time. So I don't start off with reluctant, if they're reluctant, 30 minutes, because that might just be a little bit too much. So I start off a little bit, maybe, like I said, 5, and then work up to 15, and then they'll increase as they find passages that they enjoy.
Makes sense, Jan. All right, so what about executive function skills? We hear, reading, it's an important skill kids have to have, but so is the ability to plan out what you have to read. And if you have a book report due the following week, how do you weave both of these things together, reading and then like being organized and managing your time and just getting stuff done?
Yes. So during the school year, of course, they have a lot of things that they're being asked to read, and um, we can plan out how many pages they are going to read, and the comprehension. But then we also can use this for the summer. So whenever we are over the summer, schools will send out packages or suggest books. And so what we'll do is we'll have, if the school has books that they've already picked out, then they'll have those, and then we'll figure out how many pages they can read at a time. So let's say if I have a student that reading for time, we'll say 10 or 15 minutes, or I'll have a student that's reading pages. And so then we'll plan out how many pages or how much time that they can read. We're going to pull up the Google Calendar, and we're going to plan that out on the Google Calendar. So just like we do during the school year, we will use a Google Calendar. We'll say, okay, this is what we need to do for this day. This is how much we need to read for this day, in order for us to get the book read by the day that it's due. So then whenever we have sessions, we'll check in. I'll say, okay, you were reading this many pages or this many chapters. Let's talk about what you read. Let's see if we're on track. If we are not on track, then we're going to make adjustments through the Google Calendar. That helps kids see, okay, this is how much I want to read, so that I can get the book completed, or I can read a certain amount of books over the summer. And we also go through the book and have them put like little post-its, and say, okay, this is where I'm reading to, so they can see where they're going to read to and how much they have planned, based on how much time they have over the summer.
I love that. It's like a win-win because not only are you teaching the skill of reading, but I mean, I personally think the skill of calendaring, which we do not talk about enough, I think, in schools, is just so key for school, for college, for your working life. So thanks for that, Jan. All right. And then along the way, of course, we want to keep parents informed as to how their kids are doing. And we want to make sure kids are making progress. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So when we start working with the student, we had talked about the assessment at the beginning. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and do another assessment just to see where they are after a couple of weeks or maybe a month of reading, and then see if we can, if their level has gone up, so that we can make sure that they're reading at the appropriate level. And then see how they're growing over the period of time.
What about session notes? How do those play a role?
So in our session notes, we can also put in the session notes what the student is reading, where their assessment, their baseline assessment was, when we're planning on giving the next assessment. So the session notes will let the parent know, exactly where the student is. And I have to say, lesson space is a great place for the parents to go also, because they can see what we've done, and they can see what the student is working on or what pages they're reading, and they can continue that whenever they don't have sessions. That's what we absolutely love about lesson space. I tell my families, so you can go on there at any time, and the kids love that. The kids will come back and they'll have like little notes to me, and they'll have little things that they had worked on, and we can have the to-do list on there, and it's always there for them. So the kids love it, the parents love it. So that's a great place also, along with the session notes, letting them know what they're doing. But then, of course, having lesson space is just fantastic.
Awesome. And if we can help your child this summer, we are happy to. You can scan this QR code to schedule a call with Kathy, Jennifer, or Ann Stewart. They're all experts in this area and can talk to you a little bit about your child, learn more about their history, what's going on, share a bit about our program to see if it's a match for what you're looking for. And Jan, thank you so much for being my guest today. You always share so many great ideas and wonderful ways for all the adults in a child's life to help them learn to be a better reader. So thank you everybody for attending. I hope you found it was helpful, and we'll see you at the next one.